Well, Bortoli Wines was among one of the first Australian companies to receive a federal government carbon tax grant, and we'll have an interview with the company's operation manager shortly, but first this quick explainer.
Bortoli received the biggest of the first tranche of 3,000 federal grants. The winemaker will get $4.8 million to improve energy efficiency across its operations at 5 sites in the Riverina and Hunter Valley in New South Wales and in Victoria's Yarra Valley. It dovetails with a grand plan conceived by the winery back in 2005 when they took a long-term view to reduce the business's carbon footprint. And as Australia's second largest family-owned, grape-growing and winemaking concern, they wanted to create a sustainable legacy for future generations.
These will be one of the filters we're going to replace during the program. Horrendous in terms of waste to landfill.
Having committed $11 million of its own money to the task, Bortoli qualified for the largest of the government's $8 million of grants, which will be financed by the carbon tax.
This is a bit of our bête noire, having open valves, so making sure all this pipework's sealed in here as well.
Companies match the government dollar with between $1 and $3 of their own. The program put in place at Bortoli includes farming wastewater, reductions in energy consumption using solar cogeneration and smart pumps to power filtration, lighting and refrigeration systems, and high-efficiency packaging. It's also eradicated sodium from the wine production process to mitigate soil salinity by replacing it with potassium. Other agribusinesses, including food producers and processors, are among those to also receive the government carbon grants, as well as manufacturers in the building sector. It's being trumpeted as a win-win for the environment and for their businesses.
To find out more about Bortoli's clean energy initiatives, I spoke earlier to Rob Glastonbury, Operations Manager with Bortoli Wines. Rob Glastonbury, welcome to the program.
Hi Whitney, how are you?
Bortoli's was awarded one of the 13 grants by the federal government. What are the funds being used for?
The project that we're doing is actually a three-focus project. We're looking at, firstly, at replacing some very, very inefficient and old equipment. Then secondly, we're looking at basically making sure we replace non-renewables with renewables. And then third, we're looking at what power we do get from the grid, using that far more efficiently than we do now.
The company recognised that it needed to change way ahead of the game. What was the driver for that change?
It's been a long and steady program at the Bortoli's. Starting back in 2005, we did an environmental assessment, and during that assessment we recognised that there was a lot of things we could do a lot better than we were doing. In that process, we also had the assistance of the New South Wales Department of Environment, who did a lot of pre-audits for us, so to speak, looking at our refrigeration and our energy usage, and they assisted us in identifying some major upgrades that we could do around our power usage.
Now, along the way, I imagine that there would have been a number of challenges to implementing such a program. Can you just give us an insight into that?
In fact, I think it's the other way around. For us, it's a little bit of serendipity. We've spent 5 years basically looking at all our processes, all our equipment, and we had a really good idea of what we wanted to do over the next 10 years. The grant, at the time it came, was just spot on. We were ready, and we presented a case where we looked at the whole of business, made sure that we'd cover every aspect of the business, from packaging through to processing through to our warehousing as well.
So what will you be doing over the next 10 years then?
With the grant itself, we're looking at upgrading, a major upgrade to our packaging lines, looking also at a major upgrade to the controls of our refrigeration units. We're also looking at introducing some major solar cells and also hot water generation as well. And then also within our wine processing areas, we're looking at upgrades to filtration and some of our pumping systems.
How much of an impact to the bottom line profitability of the business will a program like this have?
The underlying original capital program we had in place before the grant, we were looking at a reduction, an improvement of around about 10% on the capital employed. with the grant, it actually adds to about 30% reduction in our carbon footprint across those projects.
Are these grants enough to offset the cost of the carbon tax?
It's an interesting question. At this stage, our major suppliers haven't really indicated any major increases on the flowing through from their production. So we can't really pinpoint the impact to our businesses yet.
This is a very contentious issue. So what's your advice to other businesses and manufacturers that want to go down this track?
I think the first step is always get your numbers. Make sure you know what's actually happening in your business in terms of power usage. Make sure that you've got a really good idea of what your gas usage is. Collect the numbers and have a good hard look at what you can do to improve your efficiency.
The Australian wine sector has been facing tough challenges due to a high dollar and also a glut. Does the future look a little brighter with, growing consumption from Asia?
At the moment, we're seeing the US still as a bit of a basket case, as is the EEC. China, however, has been a bit of a bright light for us, and our sales managers in Asia are just going gangbusters at the moment. Taking orders and getting some good results.
So do you have to design specific wines for that market?
No, you're absolutely spot on. Most of the wine we're sending into those regions are specifically designed for the customers. They're looking for their own labels and with a bit of credence from De Bortoli's. They're looking for their own package designs and so on. So they are subtly different. Like China really wants to use cork, so we in some sense, we're moving away from capsules where we use in Australia and elsewhere, and we're using cork and finishing bottles differently for the Asian markets.
Rob Glastonbury, thanks for joining the program.
No worries, Whitney.